By early 1905, Japan consolidates its advantage in the Russo-Japanese War. On January 2nd, after months of siege, the Russian-held fortress of Port Arthur surrenders to the Japanese. Its fall makes a turning point in the war. Japanese forces then shift their focus northward towards Magdan, the capital of Manchuria. Beginning on February 20th, the Battle of Magdan unfolds. After weeks of intense fighting, Japanese forces outmaneuver and encircle the Russians. By March 10th, the Russian army retreats in disarray, leaving behind more than 90,000 casualties. Meanwhile, the Russian Baltic Squadron is on an 8-month journey to reinforce its fleet in East Asia. In May, the squadron finally reaches its destination, but faces Japan's navy in the narrow waters of the Tsushima Strait. On May 27th, the two fleets engage in one of the most decisive naval battles in modern history. Using superior tactics and more advanced ships, the Japanese fleet annihilates the Russian armada. Only a handful of Russian vessels survive or escape. On July 7th, Japanese forces begin their invasion of Sakhalin Island. Two landing parties, totaling 14,000 troops, disembark between Aniva and Korsakov in southern Sakhalin. On July 8th, Japanese troops occupy Korsakov, which is set on fire by retreating Russian forces. Advancing northward, the Japanese capture Vladimirovka, modern-day Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk, on July 10th. On July 24th, Japanese forces land on northern Sakhalin, near Alexandrovsk-Sakhalinsky. Facing superior numbers and equipment, the Russian garrison withdraws from the outpost and surrenders on July 31. By August, Japan controls the entire island. With its military battered and unrest brewing at home, Russia agrees to negotiate peace. US President Theodore Roosevelt mediates talks in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and on September 5th both sides sign the Treaty of Portsmouth. Under the treaty, Japan gains control of Korea as a protectorate, which will be formally annexed in 1910. Russia cedes southern Manchuria and leases Port Arthur and Dalny to Japan. Japan acquires the southern half of Sakhalin Island. Russia retains northern Manchuria but loses significant influence in East Asia. The treaty elevates Japan to great power status while humiliating Russia, fueling domestic discontent that helps spark revolutionary movements. Despite Japan's military success, many citizens are furious that the peace treaty includes no war reparations from Russia. On September 5th, protests erupt in Tokyo. Angry crowds flood the streets in what becomes known as the Hibiya Riots. Over several days, demonstrators torch government buildings and clash repeatedly with police. In Russia, the war has sparked unrest and dissatisfaction. On January 9th, thousands of workers march peacefully to the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg to petition Tsar Nicholas II for better conditions and political reform. Nervous troops acting on muddled orders open fire, killing hundreds in the massacre soon dubbed Bloody Sunday. The shock spreads throughout the empire, strikes, peasant uprising and naval mutinies. After the end of the war, in October, a general strike freezes major cities. The St. Petersburg Soviet forms and pressure mounts. Nicholas II caves on October 17th, issuing the October Manifesto, which promises civil liberties and a representative Duma. Unrest peaks in December when Moscow workers stage an armed uprising. Street fighting rages until government forces crush it by December 18th. By early 1906, the revolt is snuffed out, thousands dead. tens of thousands jailed. But the regime's weakness is laid bare, foreshadowing the bigger explosions of 1917. Persia is battered by economic misery, heavy taxes, and blatant foreign meddling from Russia and Britain. Merchants and clerics unite against officials and new levies. By December, mass protests rocked Tehran, Shiraz, and Mashhad, launching the Persian constitutional revolution. Demonstrations and strikes forced the Shah to grant concessions. Over the next few years, Persia gains a constitution and an elected parliament. In early 1905, tensions rise between Norway and Sweden over Norway's demand for its own consular service and greater independence in foreign affairs. In May, the Norwegian parliament passes a law establishing a separate consular service, but King Oscar II of Sweden refuses to sanction it. The Norwegian government resigns, and when the king cannot appoint a new government, a constitutional crisis follows. On June 7th, the Norwegian parliament declares the union with Sweden dissolved, stating that the king has ceased to function as King of Norway. The Swedish government demands a referendum to confirm the decision. On August 13th, nearly all Norwegian voters approved the dissolution. Negotiations between the two sides begin in Karlstad at the end of August. Despite military mobilization on both sides, an agreement is reached in September, and Sweden formally recognizes Norway's independence on October 26. The union, which existed since 1814, ends peacefully, and Norway becomes a fully independent constitutional monarchy. Morocco remains one of the few independent states in Africa, but France, supported by Britain through the Entente Cordiale, seeks to expand its influence and introduce reforms. Germany, aiming to challenge France's ambitions and test the strength of the Anglo-French alliance, proclaims its support for Moroccan independence. On March 31st, Kaiser Wilhelm II visits Tangier and publicly declares support for the Sultan's sovereignty, directly opposing French plans. This move provokes an international crisis, with France, Britain and Russia aligning against Germany, while Austria-Hungary supports the German position. The events in Morocco deepen mistrust among the European powers and highlight the growing divisions that will shape international relations in the years ahead. On November 28th, the Sinn Féin party is founded in Dublin, Ireland, making the start of a new political movement for Irish self-government. Over the following years, Sinn Féin's influence will spread across Ireland, uniting nationalist groups and laying the groundwork for future changes to the land's political borders. At this time, the British Parliament passes the Papua Act, transferring the administration of British New Guinea to Australia. The Act formally designates it as the territory of Papua and establishes it as an external territory under Australian control. Over the following years, Papua will remain part of Australia. It will be administratively unified with the territory of New Guinea after World War II, before achieving independence in 1975. The US West has extensive desert territory. Although it's sparsely populated, the Mojave Desert contains natural springs that provide a reliable water source. By 1905, the San Pedro-Los Angeles and Salt Lake Railroad completes its line, connecting Salt Lake City and Los Angeles. Seeking to establish a key stop along the route, Senator William Clark acquires 110 acres of land near the springs for a rail depot and organizes an auction on May 15th to encourage settlement. His goal is to create a vital link between Salt Lake City and Los Angeles. As a result, a new settlement is founded at this site, Las Vegas. In the following decades, Las Vegas will grow rapidly, and after the legalization of gambling, it will become world famous for its entertainment, tourism, and gaming. In 1905, while working at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern, Albert Einstein publishes a series of groundbreaking papers in the journal Annalen der Physik. In March, he explains the photoelectric effect by proposing that light consists of discrete energy quanta. In May, he provides a theoretical explanation for Brownian motion, offering strong evidence for the existence of atoms and molecules. In June, Einstein introduces the special theory of relativity based on the idea that the laws of physics are the same for all observers in uniform motion and that the speed of light is constant in all inertial frames. In September, he derives the famous equation E equals mc², showing the equivalence of mass and energy. These publications, later known as Einstein's Miracle Year papers, fundamentally reshape modern physics and lay the foundation for quantum mechanics, modern atomic theory, and nuclear energy. This was 1905, a year of revolutions and new beginnings. The old world has cracked. In 1906, deep fractures will begin to tear it apart.